You are in the graphics menu because the game is not smooth. Shadow quality high down to medium, and the frame rate climbs because the shadow is not a dark patch on the ground. To draw one, your graphics chip renders the whole scene again from the light's position. Then the same move on texture quality and nothing moves at all. That slider adds no work. It only asks for room. A picture at 1920 by 1080 is a little over 2 million pixels, and every one of them needs a color of its own before anybody sees the frame. At 60 frames a second, all 2 million have to be finished inside about 16 thousandths of a second, then thrown away and done again. If your graphics chip took those pixels one at a time, it would have 8 billionths of a second each, which is roughly 20 ticks of its clock. 20 ticks is not enough to work out where a pixel stands in the world, never mind what color it ought to be. A frame that misses that deadline is the thing you feel as a stutter, so the chip does not take them one at a time. It takes thousands of them at once. A graphics chip is not one fast worker, it is an enormous number of slow ones arranged in lockstep groups that run the same short program on the same tick, each one on a different pixel. A frame is the same small question asked 2 million times, and that is the one shape of work you can hand to thousands of workers without any of them waiting. The price of a setting is the work it adds to a single pixel, multiplied by how many pixels there are. Going from 1080 to 1440 raises every price by nearly double, and doubling both numbers again multiplies it by exactly 4. So the only question worth asking about a slider is how much work it adds to one pixel. Shadows answer it twice. A shadow is not a thing you draw. It is an answer to a question asked about every pixel. Is there anything between this point and the light? There is only one cheap way to answer that, and it is to go and stand where the light stands. Before your frame is drawn, the whole scene is drawn again from the light's position, not in color and not lit, because none of that matters from there. All the light needs is the distance to the nearest surface in every direction. What comes out is a picture nobody will ever see, a grid of distances, one number per cell. Then your frame is drawn, and every pixel that wants to know whether it is lit measures its own distance and compares the two. One map is never enough. One map is never enough because a single grid has to cover everything from the pebble at your feet to the mountain, and a grid fine enough for the pebble would have to be impossibly large to reach the mountain. So the view gets sliced up by distance, near, middle, far, further. Each slice gets its own map at its own scale. 4 slices is the number I think of as ordinary, and the count moves with the scene. So the geometry of your world is drawn 5 times in every frame, once for each slice and once for the picture. You see the 5th one. The other 4 exist so that a pixel can look up a distance, and they are rebuilt from nothing, 60 times a second, for as long as the light or the camera moves. A single measurement gives you a hard black edge because the answer is yes or no. A pixel is either behind something or it is not. Real shadows have soft edges, so the chip does not ask once. It asks in a small square around the point, counts how many answers came back in shadow, then shades the pixel by the fraction. A 3 by 3 square is 9 questions. A 5 by 5 square is 25. That is what your shadow slider is moving, the same shadow in the same place at 9 lookups per pixel, or at 25. Across one picture, that is 18 million lookups against 52 million every frame. For a softer edge, you would have to stop the game to see. That is one of the 2 sliders, and the other one asks for nothing at all. Price a texture the same way, and the work column comes out empty. A texture is a picture wrapped onto a surface, and a pixel that needs its color reads a handful of nearby values and blends them. Make the picture 4 times bigger and it still reads a handful. It has to, because every texture is stored as a ladder of shrinking copies, and the chip picks the rung where one dot lands on about 1 pixel of your screen. So a wall in the distance comes off a tiny copy, and the enormous version you paid for is never touched. A texture 4096 across takes 16 megabytes. The copy 1 rung down takes 4. Moving that slider changes the megabytes by a factor of 4 and the number of lookups by nothing at all, which makes it the only setting in that menu that is genuinely free, right up to the edge of 1 number. That number is how much memory your graphics card has of its own. It sits on the same board, centimeters from the chip, on a bus wide enough to move 640 gigabytes every second. Everything else your machine has is on the far side of a slot, and that slot carries about 31. So while your textures fit, the extra megabytes cost nothing, exactly as the accounting said. When they stop fitting, the picture your chip needs next is dragged across a connection 20 times narrower, and the frame waiting on it becomes a long frame, not a lower average. 1 frame late inside an otherwise perfect second. It is the same distinction as how fast your memory is against how much of it is close at hand. So go back to the menu. Those 2 rows say the same word, and they were never the same kind of thing. One is asking your chip to do more work, 2 million times a picture, 60 times a second, and the other is asking for somewhere to put things.
Everything you just figured out rests on something deeper, and that's the next video, so start there. Would you rather understand your computer than just use it? Then subscribe, and I'll see you next time, further down the stack.